Reverend Queeman lights our chalice this morning, I invite you to rise in body or spirit to speak aloud our affirmation. If you're on Zoom, please keep muted as you speak. The words are printed in the chat line. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve human need. For these high purposes, do we unite in worship.
So one more time, good morning to everyone. It's so good to see all of you, persons of all ages. Welcome, welcome back. Welcome for the first time if you're a newcomer in this sanctuary and online. Good morning, online congregation. Good morning. Good to see you. You are welcome here, no matter your personal self-identity, no matter how you worship or whom you love. I am so glad to be with you on this In-Gathering Sunday, the official start of a new church year in this multi-generational service at the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Durango. And speaking of multi-generational, how about we all just give one more special shout out to the children who are here in this service this morning. Let's have a shout out for the children. Yay! Woo! This time of the year reminds me of the two-headed figure named Janus, who looks in two directions at the same time, backwards from one of the faces, and in a 180-degree difference forward to the future. Two faces, back and forward in the same body. We'll do the same this morning, thinking back on where we've been and forward to the future. All these reflections and memories and joys, perhaps some sorrows, represented by the pouring of waters later in the service. There's so much to recall and to look forward to at this time of year. So much to wonder about in American culture and politics, in the state of the environment, in how life will be forever changed as we emerge, hopefully for good, from the pandemic. We will never be like we used to be. We will be changed by the pandemic. So much to wonder about in the life of this congregation with this new interim ministry. A mode of ministry I know many of you have not experienced before. Indeed, we are all in what may be called liminal time. Liminal. That is in-between time, neither here nor there, in a process of becoming. I hope this will be a positive becoming for each of you and for this congregation. A time of exploration and enjoyment for everyone. As I invite you all, through our many activities this year, to reflect on those many reasons you come to church: spiritual deepening, intellectual growth, community development, and of course, just plain fun. The theme of the Soul Matters small group ministry for September, which I know many of you follow and which we've talked about, for example, in Worship Associates, the theme for September is belonging. Soul Matters materials explain belonging as the longing after the living of life, so to be part of something. We've already seen that one way we can feel we belong is by singing and dancing and laughing together, as we have all just experienced. Another important means of belonging is through telling our stories and deeply listening to the stories of others. I expect most of us enjoy stories. For you who have already attended the small group meet and greets, the conversations we've been having on the patio, think on the stories you've heard and how they connected us, how they created that sense of belonging. It makes a difference, doesn't it? Looking at life as story and relationship, rather than as only a series of events or tasks. Viewed as stories, our experiences feel alive and flexible, more personal, experiences we belong to. Regarding experiences as story gives the facts some shape and helps us remember them better. I wager many of you have stories to tell about your summer. Anybody have stories from the summer to tell? Yeah, I bet a few of you do. During social time after the service, I invite each of you to tell at least one other person a story about your summer. Adults, ask a child to tell you their story. And children, can you find at least one grown-up to share a story with about your summer? And parents, you may want to help connect the children with the adults. But children, find someone to tell stories about your summer to. I'm sure you have plenty of stories. Seeing our lives as story is important. Think about any good storyteller you've heard who paints pictures in your mind's eye, such as the author of our reading, Reverend Meg Barnhouse. She's a master storyteller, in person especially. Reverend Meg sees ministry as story, and herself as a creator of stories about the ministries she serves. Just like the bricklayer, her ministry is filled brick by brick, story by story. Brick by brick, we build structures. Story by story, we build churches. This morning, our stories of belonging will be represented through the element of water as we celebrate the traditional Unitarian Universalist water ceremony. This is a ceremony of belonging. The pouring of waters represents our reflections, our memories, our hopes, our joys, our sorrows, stories of the past, and stories of future longings and visions. All these stories, represented by the waters we will pour during the ceremony. Now sit tight. I will explain our process for the water ceremony more explicitly before inviting you to participate. Stories include both information and perspective on that information. When we tell a story, our personal lens frames the story and influences the meaning we give it. If we have a negative lens, say about a family visit, we'll probably talk about all the ways in which Great Uncle Charlie always disagreed with us in matters of religion and politics. I sure hope there's no Great Uncle Charlies in this audience this morning. Always take a risk when you offer these metaphors. So we'll focus on the ways in which Great Uncle Charlie always disagreed with us, rather than remembering the good time we all had at family dinners. Or if we have a positive lens on summer vacation, we'll remember sunny days and forget the endless days when we were rained out from going to the beach. I find it quite amazing how the same set of facts can generate vastly different stories in different people. And fear not, I'm not planning to take this sermon in the direction of the current political scene in this country. In addition to different lenses on a story from different people, our perspectives can change over time as we process emotional reactions, as we learn new facts, as we build new relationships. Over time, most likely, any one of us will tell the same story differently. What matters is that we have control over how we tell the stories. Don't we do this with stories about our families, for example? When we learn new pieces of the story, we have that moment of saying, oh yeah, that explains it. why Great Uncle Charlie held the political views he did. Over time, we generate new versions of our stories. Think about any of your summer stories you're going to tell. Will you tell them the same way 6 months from now? 6 years from now? Stories are constantly being transformed. Think about stories in this congregation. Are they any different now from when life was thick in the middle of COVID lockdown? Or when there were significant changes in congregational leadership swirling around you? Thank goodness for the possibility of changing those lenses, rewriting those stories, those histories of who we are, where we've come from, and where we're going. During interim ministry, congregations are called on to review their stories, their histories, because knowing the past, now hear me, not living in the past, but knowing the past, is central to how you live in the present and imagine the future. During the Transition Forum, today starting at 11:30, which I encourage everyone to attend, I will say more about story and history as one of the focus points of this interim time. Think about this coming year. What will be the story of this congregation? What role will you play? How will you contribute to a compassionate, creative story? After the meditative music, we will begin our water ceremony, in which the waters we pour represent our memories of the past and our visions for the future. Each person of all ages, everyone, children included, are invited to participate. And I invite you to choose to offer either waters of the past or waters of the future. Our pouring of waters is for us here in this room and for folks online. Combining our waters represents our ingathering, coming back together. So just to be a bit more specific with guidance for this ceremony before I conclude this homily. Here in the sanctuary, I invite you who want to pour waters to come up the side aisles. The aisle and bowl on your right, that bowl on your right, this aisle, are to represent waters and memories of the past. The aisle and the bowl on your left, and that bowl on your left, represent visions for the future. I invite you to choose one or the other. Either bring the water you've brought from home or take a small cup. There's small cups of water at the front if you haven't brought your water. If you brought water from home, please only a small portion because our bowls are only so big, okay? I invite a few of you, let's say no more than 4 at each water station, to offer very brief words explaining what your water represents. On your right, for example, my water represents the tragedy of 9/11, 21 years ago. Or, for example, for the bowl on your left, my water represents hope for humans' control of the environment. And children, I also encourage you to participate. If any of you want to show your pictures of your water drawings, bring them forward and tell us about your drawings. Show us your drawings. For anyone who prefers to not walk around the room after this ritual, Cheryl will come to you with a small bowl so that you can participate at your seat. And folks online, I invite you to create your own ceremony, each in your own way, and type your joys and sorrows and memories and futures into the chat. This morning, as we come back here at the end of summer and look forward to the future, may all our visions, memories, and reflections be filled with love, with hope, with grace, and with compassionate connections with all living creatures and with Mother Earth. May all this, my friends, be so.